Fall back on that if you can't think of anything else weird about you. So seasonal podcasts have really blown up in the last year, or even more. Shows like S-Town and Serial, and I've had just a regular once a week or every other week podcast. So I'm excited to find out some lessons about running a seasonal podcast.
Hey everyone, I'm Brian Earl, and last November I launched my very first podcast called Christmas Past. It tells the histories behind Christmas traditions, so as you might imagine, it's a seasonal podcast. Now, building an audience is a big challenge for any podcaster, but when you're seasonal, there are unique challenges. So what's a seasonal podcast? One that releases episodes cyclically, whether it's around a holiday season, a temporal season, the sports season of a television show, an election season, or so on, and so on. Lesson learned number one is it's basically the same no matter what kind of podcast that you're putting out there, except that when it comes for seasonal podcasts, there is the added time pressure. Also, a surprise that came to me was that there are some hidden advantages that I'll go over shortly. First, the second lesson learned is that by the time you can get their attention, it might already be a little too late. In just a moment, you're going to see what my Libsyn stats looked like for the year, and really it's like trying to chase a very quickly moving target. Another big one is that your audience isn't necessarily who you think it is. Now, this is a big part of how we gain our audience. Number one is to come up with a demographic profile of your listener. Number two is to find out where those people are online. Number three is to go there and try to sell your show. So this is what I was thinking. This is my audience, people who just love Christmas content and can't get enough of it. The Hallmark Channel viewers, essentially suburban moms. Until it occurred to me, my mom is a suburban mom and she doesn't listen to podcasts. So I thought if you love history and you love Christmas, well then in the middle you have my listeners. And it's true that those conditions are necessary, but they're not sufficient, especially when you're trying to capture people's attention during the busiest time of the year. So this is what my audience looks like. They have to love those things, but they also have to know about podcasts and be motivated to try a new one. As weird as it sounds, my audience is people looking for a show like mine, right? Little different than putting it out there and hoping people find it. Here's the other big one. There's no such thing as a seasonal podcast. There's really just seasonal interest. My content doesn't go anywhere. You can download all my episodes tonight. And as a matter of fact, I suggest you do exactly that. Well, let's take a look. This is my Libsyn stats for the year, right? About 17,000 downloads last season, all of them occurring between, well, not all of them, most of them occurring between November and December. Notice that climb upward toward December? I'm going to come back to that because there's an important piece of information that I'm going to apply to this year. But also, these are also my stats. 400 people downloaded my podcast in June. That's not a lot, but that is a non-trivial number of people listening to Christmas content in June. And this guy out here also left me a review in April and said he listened to my whole catalog. So the point is you have to engage year-round. And as a matter of fact, once all the commotion dies down for the holiday season, what you have now is your most loyal and vocal listeners and supporters, and you can really engage with them a lot more. This is really just a good life lesson, not necessarily a podcast promotion lesson, that 99% of the stuff you do on social media should be like actually talking to people and engaging with them. Passive engagements, likes, retweets, blah, 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 those are all fine, I do them too, but treat social media like a chat room and not a megaphone. This is the hidden advantage I was talking about, is that you actually have opportunities for traditional media, because around Christmas, all of the newspapers and magazines or whatever are doing their top 10 Christmas tips, Christmas lists, Christmas this and that. So as a matter of fact, the Financial Times did an article on Christmas podcast that featured yours truly. It's not that hard to get the attention of media people nowadays because you have access to them through social media. So the lesson learned there is simply to tweet, send out a press release. Just remember the golden rule of publicity, that it is not the media's job to give you attention, it is your job to give them content useful and relevant to their audience. Which one is this? Oh, yeah, you're playing the long game. Okay, so for me, I am not building up my audience over weeks or months. I'm building my audience over years. And I know that there's going to be a lot of churn. People are going to subscribe for a season, unsubscribe, forget about me, and I have to earn them all over again. The other one is that I'm playing the long game here. I have no illusions about making Christmas Past profitable, about getting sponsorships. This is really just a fun hobby for me because I love Christmas and I love podcasting. And that's really all there is to it for me. So remember I said there was that climb from November to December? That's because I was releasing episodes like every 3 or 4 days throughout the Christmas season, from Thanksgiving to Christmas, which meant that the ones that I released later in the season had less of a chance to be discovered during the Christmas season. So I'm going to try this year to just release all of them at once, Netflix style, and let people binge. That's it for me. Christmas passed over there, and my brand new podcast, Illusion, which came out on August 1st. And with that, I will thank you for your kind attention.